On this episode, Brian and I dissect and talk about the Dallas Cowboys draft. What do we think? Good? Bad? A whole bunch of meh? Brian, play the music. Welcome to the Goal Line Fade. I am Zach, your host, and my RB1, Brian. Today's episode, not draft. This is kind of special because it's all draft. It might as well be a draft. We're going to talk Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about every pick, what it means to the team, kind of where it's going to go. No funny stories or anything else. I kind of want to get back right into it. I got some thoughts, and I want to talk to you about them because I want to say positive things. I want to be a homer because I can be that, but I really don't want to be. So first off, the draft's in the books, and we're going to kind of go round by round on this episode and kind of talk about what it means for the squad. First off, last year, let's go to last year's draft.
Okay.
I left very, 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 very impressed with the draft last year because the first draft, under the Mike McCarthy era, and it was 100%, in my opinion, best talent available every single round.
Yeah, it was one of the best drafts the Cowboys have had
on paper.
At least on paper.
Right.
2016 was spectacular. You get a franchise quarterback in the fourth round, great. But on paper alone, I'd say this is still even better than that because at the time we never knew what Dak was going to turn into when that draft happened. On paper, this is one of the best drafts in the last 15, 20 years.
And how does something become good on paper? It becomes good on paper because, for instance, somebody's big board has, like this year, we drafted Micah Parsons at 12. And he ranked 8th on their big board, and we got him at 12. So that makes your grade improve, correct? Is that how the grading works for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically about value, right?
Right.
So, like I said about Dak, at the time of that draft or at the time of this draft, we have no idea who's actually going to be a good player in the NFL because there's so many variables, right? But all the scouts and draftniks and everybody kind of gets together and puts out their big board, and there kind of becomes a consensus of general rankings of roughly the top 250 players that are out there.
Right.
And then you can judge the value based on where you're getting certain players as opposed to where they're ranked overall on this kind of general big board that's out in the ether, right?
It's like fantasy football. You don't draft Tony Pollard in the second round, even though you think he might have a great year. You wait for his price for him to kind of be where it's at when you're drafting in the order, right?
Absolutely. So a perfect example is last year, right? When CeeDee Lamb fell to the Cowboys at 17, the wide receiver was not a need, right?
Sure.
You take CeeDee Lamb because the value at that point is so crazy. If they didn't take CeeDee Lamb, they were going to take one of two players, one of them being Trayvon Diggs, right? But they take CeeDee Lamb because the value is just too good because he was rated so high on their board. And then they happen to get Trayvon Diggs in the second round, which then also bumps the total value of what they were able to get. It's the same kind of thing. You have to factor in roughly where everybody else is ranking them, positional value, scheme fit, age, injury history. That, like I said, there's a lot of variables.
And for this draft, which we're about to get into, it seems like they went against that notion. And they gave us what we wanted. We wanted defense. The defense was putrid. This last year drafting for best player available did not translate into anything but terrible, terrible football last year. You could blame it on COVID. You could blame it on coaches, blame it on schemes. For whatever reason, it didn't work. This year's draft, which we're about to get into, is 100% about scheme, traits, and really, quite frankly, this is what I want, and I'm not getting anything unless it fits that criteria. Is that a true statement from what I'm about to break down with you?
That is certainly a, I don't know if I would say it's a true statement, but it is a fair, at least a fair assessment given what we do and don't know about how the Cowboys operate. I'll play devil's advocate for 1 second. I don't even necessarily believe this, but it is something to think about.
Right.
With this year, with the whole COVID situation, information was much less available in the draft community, right? Normally, we have a pretty good idea not only of what teams are planning on doing, but also kind of what their board roughly looks like. That information has a way of getting out to the internet. This year, that didn't really happen. Normally, again, and I don't want to drag this out for a long time, this explanation of what I'm trying to say, but normally throughout the entire football season and into the early off season, each team scouts are out on the road. They're assigned, one scout will be assigned a particular area of the country, right? And each team is going to have a scout assigned to that area of the country. So those scouts work together, they share notes, whatever. So what ends up happening is each team's board, because the scouts are all kind of working together, ends up looking at least pretty similar. You don't have wide variances, where this year that didn't happen because the scouts weren't going out and seeing each other face to face. So either the Cowboys were doing exactly what you said, which is basing the majority of their at least later round picks on scheme, or they just had completely different value than what everybody else did on the players they picked.
Right.
One of the two.
And it seemed like there was a lot of value this year on players that were in the Senior Bowl, because that was an actual hands-on scenario, not just for the Cowboys, for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
If a casual draftee person who's trying to learn more about the process, a lot of medical records were missing this year, a lot of unknowns. There's the safety from TCU, that you and I were high on, fell a little bit because apparently a back issue had popped up that they didn't have all the records about quite yet. So there's a reason why he fell a little bit long. I was wondering why he was still chilling there so long, but
I mean, there's another guy that I was real high on. I didn't want the Cowboys to draft him, but he was one of my favorite players in the draft, is the linebacker / safety out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Right.
Well, all the way up through, and I'll say that name again because it's a mouthful, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. All the way up through the entire pre-draft process, everybody, the media's kind of big board, had him ranked as a top 20, top 15 player. I mean, some people had him mocked to the Cowboys or the Broncos. That's how high he was going. And he ended up going at like 52 to the Browns, because when they did finally get medical stuff, he had an undiagnosed heart condition. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I've kind of vented a little bit, so let's break it down. We talked about, for the last 2 or 3 episodes talking draft, that the draft was Atlanta, San Francisco. That 3-4 range was where this shit could kind of go in a weird direction, right? And it did. I know you and a lot of people in the know, but the majority of people thought that Mac Jones is going to be, like, Mac Jones 100% was going to be the person that went.
That was the reports. That was the information that was coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like Zach Wilson and everything else. So, like, one thing that changed about that is Trey Lance ended up going 3rd, right? And with Trey Lance going 3rd, it switched everything, because for whatever reason, it made Pitts happen like everybody thought with Atlanta. There was reports that Atlanta was going to go Trey Lance with a quickness if he was available at 4, which all of a sudden now you have 4 quarterbacks. So the reason why I bring this up is all the dominoes fell. We get to the 10th pick, and it's Cowboys. There's only 3 quarterbacks that are gone. So all of the defenders and skill position players, wide receivers have already, it's starting to happen, unlike we thought maybe it could.
Yeah.
We're at 10. We trade back. Okay.
Well, let's clarify. Before it gets to 10, the 2 players that the Cowboys were going to draft were the cornerbacks, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, and they go number 8 to Horn goes 8 to Carolina, and 9 Surtain to Denver. But go ahead from there.
Perfect. So literally right in front of us, just boom, gone. So you and I are texting, and both of us have the exact same response. Slater or Parsons is who you go with here, right? Or trade back. I didn't know how far trading back, but sure as hell, it's announced minutes later they did trade back, and it was with the Eagles. And really, you got an extra pick for moving back 2 spots and taking who you were going to take at 10. That's a win for me. That's a very big win, big time.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know a lot of people, and once again, most people who pay attention to the draft watch the first round or pay attention to that, and they kind of tune out after. The super fan is watching to the last pick, right?
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know how much talent there was in the secondary. That's all we've tried to talk about it on our podcast, because in the second round, if you missed, and we talked about that being a real possibility, we were talking about Kyle Pitts or Waddle or whatever, or trading back, you could get a quality secondary person in the second round.
Absolutely.
You do it because there's just so many people there, as long as you're making the right pick. So we get our pick, we get Micah Parsons. So let's talk about Micah Parsons, okay? He is a linebacker. He is from Penn State, and he has as Michael Jordan would say, the ceiling is the roof, right? With his raw abilities, he could be a bad motherfucker, basically.
Just to say the least, man. I don't want to. Okay, so a lot of people are saying that he's a boom or bust pick, and I don't agree with that, right? I think it's boom or smaller boom, right? Because while I would have preferred Slater, let me say that, I still like the Parsons pick, because I think right now he is the best linebacker on this team, right off the bat, right? His physical abilities are off the charts, but he's only been playing linebacker for 2 years. He will get better. But even if he hypothetically doesn't get even a little bit better, he's still the best linebacker on this team. Because in today's NFL, linebacker, a lot of people say that linebacker is becoming an irrelevant position, and I don't agree with that. I think your old school kind of linebacker, that only plays the run, is obsolete. You have to be able to, because the league passes so much, you have to be able to be effective in the passing game in one of 2 ways. You either have to be at least serviceable or better in coverage, or you have to be able to rush the passer. One of the 2. For him, we don't know how good he really is in coverage, because he wasn't asked to do it very much at Penn State. Right. What he can do is rush the passer. He is one of the best off-ball linebackers at pass rushing already in the entire league, because he was a defensive end in high school. So right off the bat, you're going to see him on blitz packages. You're going to see him, this defense is going to be very different than what a lot of people think. It's going to be very multiple. So you're going to see, right? What's that?
Very hybrid, like 3-4, 4-3.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to see, and it's going to be even weirder stuff like that. Like in my head, based on the things that Dan Quinn said, it almost makes me think of like the late 2010s Rex Ryan defenses, where sometimes you'd only have 1 down lineman and you'd have 5 linebackers, or just crazy stuff, where you never know where the blitzer's coming from. But when Parsons is on the field, and he's going to be on the field a lot, you can bet he's probably, if it's a passing down, he's probably coming, because he can rush his ass off. Great player.
Is he going to make, I think, this is just me, and obviously I don't break down the film like you do. I think that he's going to make Jalen better.
I think he's going to make Jalen obsolete.
Well, that's even better. In either way, I think either Jalen gets paid because he's surrounded by a talent who masks his, like, obviously this was my thought after the pick. Yeah. Spoiler alert, as we go further, we got another linebacker later who I'm just in love with as well. But I think, one of those 2, man. And I think I'm fine either way, because, man, he pissed me off. He got paid and disappeared.
Here's the thing, right? Micah Parsons is what they were hoping that Jalen was gonna be, right? Like the closest, and I'm not huge on player comps, because it's very rarely is it actually accurate, but the closest player comp for Micah Parsons is Jalen Smith before he fucked his knee all up, right? That's the closest comp. What's gonna, in my opinion, is I think in sometime between 12 to 24 months from now, you're nowadays most of the time you're in nickel 70% of the time, 65% of the time, which is 2 linebackers.
Right.
I think in 12 to 24 months, your 2 linebackers are the 2 guys we drafted in this draft.
Sure.
Right? They didn't, as of today, they announced they didn't pick up the option for Leighton Vander Esch.
Right.
That doesn't mean he's gone after this year, but
he's on notice.
All linebackers that were on the staff before the draft are 100% on notice. Make yourself useful or make yourself gone.
Yes. All right. So first round is over. We picked Micah Parsons. We did not trade back into the very end of the first, like we talked about. Feeling good. I look at the board. I see 10 solid people on secondary between safeties and cornerbacks that we could pick up. Okay. Feeling good. Some people are going crazy on Facebook. Like, what the fuck? Who is this? What? Oh my God, this draft's terrible. And it's like, it's not over. It could be good. So we go to the second round. The Cowboys had the 12th pick in the second round, not the 10th. They had the 12th pick. So it's a whole day. We've had time to kind of stew on things, and comes up to be our pick. First off, you and I both wanted the safety from TCU.
I don't care what they say. That's who they were going to pick.
Oh, sure.
They pretend in the press conference after like they weren't. That was their guy.
Yeah. But Oakland moved right in front of us.
Yeah.
What, about 5 minutes before?
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Oakland draft fucked us.
And took them. They cock block. It happened. They're like 100%.
Yeah.
So I had about 3 or 4 guys that were on my list because there were some good secondary guys going at this point, right? I know you and I had mentioned that I liked the Asante Samuel Jr. You had mentioned to me that it's not the scheme. He's too small. It's not a guy they're going to be looking at. And after researching Dan Quinn and what he wanted and what they were saying, I'm like, you were right. So I took him off of my list, but I had about 3 or 4. I saw who we were drafting, who's the cornerback, Kelvin Johnson. Right?
Kelvin
Joseph, excuse me. I don't want to say John. Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky, who's a cornerback, popped up there, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know Brian talked about him. I know I've heard people on the radio talk about him. Was this the right pick here? Like, did they just Tristan Hill us where they reached a little bit? So I'm on my phone. I text you and everything else, and then I realize, oh fuck, okay. This is a guy that's had some off the field issues, and there's a reason why he's right here. This guy's borderline 27, 28. Early second round pick if he's squeaky clean.
If he's squeaky clean, I think it's earlier than that. I think if he's squeaky clean, he goes in the teens. His tape is terrific. You'll find a handful of people out there, draft people and scouts, that will ding him a little bit on some tape stuff, but I do not agree with them. The other draft, people in the know that I follow and pay attention to and agree with them most of the time, are all in love with this guy, myself included.
Was he graded as a second rounder?
He was graded out as a second rounder, factoring in the off-field stuff,
Sure.
Getting the boot from LSU and not getting along with his coaching staff. The Cowboys have said that they did a good amount of research on it. They did their homework and are completely comfortable with it. I don't know if that's true or not, and they wouldn't tell us if,
Right.
They're not going to come out and say, no, we just kind of took a shot in the dark. No. But
if there's one thing I give the Joneses is they will forever tell you that that's their pick all along. Yeah. That's who they wanted. There's no for instance, Urban Meyer was quoted as like their heart was broken on one pick because
the running back
before, right? And they will never, ever. They're such salesmen. They will never, ever, ever say it's always nope. That was our guy. That's exactly who he wanted to pick. That the whole time. That's they never waver from that, and I kind of appreciate it.
No,
he's also a rapper. Have you listened to his rap music yet? By the way,
yeah, Boss Man Fat. Yes, he's got 6 albums, dude. 6 albums. Yeah. Which a lot. I think personally, a big part of the reason why so many people in the draft community were dinging him is because the NFL doesn't like that when you have interests outside of football. They want you to be 100% all in all the time. The only thing you care about is football and family.
Right.
And there's plenty of really good players in the league who have interests outside of football. There have been times where it has blown up in teams' face for drafting one of those guys, but a lot of guys come into the league that have interest outside of football, and it doesn't hamper them at all. Hopefully that's the case here, because if he lives up to his potential, then he could be an all-pro.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I watched everything that I could watch and read everything I could read, listened to his interviews, listened to his calls. And I'm like, all right, man, sign me up. And at this point, me in the mind of the Cowboy fan that I am, at this point, Brian, I'm like, okay. So we did not get Surtain. We did not get Horn. We got Micah Parsons, who's badass. And then we got this guy who, if he wasn't a fuck up, is graded just as high as the other two. I'm like, okay, well, I thought we would have went O-line in the second, cornerback in the first, something along those lines, right? So I'm like, this is working out all right. Okay, I'm extremely pumped with where we're at. We have 3 picks in the 3rd round. So I'm telling people, I'm texting my friends and everything else. I'm like, okay. So now we start to say, what's this second pick with Micah Parsons and this pick we're getting from the Eagles? What's this about to turn into, right? Like, how are we going to spin this? Yes, sir.
Sorry to cut you off, but something you said at the beginning of this right here reminded me of something else and brings me back to the 1st round real quick, but it's an important note.
Okay.
We said, you pointed out that the pick in the 1st round when we took Micah Parsons was basically between Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman,
sure,
and Micah Parsons.
We believe that's what it was. It had to have been, honestly.
Yeah. Something else we can take by them not taking the offensive lineman is they also must be pretty confident in the health of
Collins and Tyron.
Yeah. Now, I take it with a grain of salt, but I think if they were after the horrible shit fuck of a situation that we had last year with the O-line, I think that if they truly believed that it was going to be another really rough year for Tyron, I think they would have drafted the O-lineman. So that should be at least comforting to some people. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
absolutely.
No,
2nd round pick, and we're off to the 3rd.
All right. Yeah, we are off to the fucking 3rd round. Mike, can we just skip it? Is that okay? Okay. So I'm a Cowboys fan, and I think the reason why I'm able to be such a good fan these days is I don't let what I know is a thing affect me and when it shouldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The taking Taco over Watt, the taking Tristan Hill over Juan Thornhill, the taking, Van Der Esch over Ridley, even if you want to get crazy with it, right? Now, the last 6 years, though, they have hit, in my opinion, on draft picks more than they've missed. The Dak pick, oh my gosh, so smart. Now, don't get me wrong, we tried our worst to fuck it up by getting Paxton Lynch or Connor Cook or whoever, but we were blocked by the Raiders, blocked by Denver. It all worked out. One thing I have a problem with, I like this entire draft, and I'm not a grader. I think it's not my thing, but I would say that this draft will be as good as some of the top ones that happen in the league if it wasn't for the 3rd round. And I don't know why they do this. Maybe you can explain it, but they get a comp pick, right? Which is a free pick. It's like, hey, you lost a player to free agency, so we extend the 3rd round. Here's your comp pick, right? Which was 99. The Eagles gave us a 3rd round pick for them moving up 2 spots. They had 2 anyway, so no harm, no foul. They're like, okay, you can have this pick. So now we have 3 picks. Well, for whatever reason, and I'm not in the room, I don't know who they value or why they do it, but I'm of strong mind and body that says that you should take the best players available when you have that. And to me, what we did in the 3rd, and the story is not yet written on these guys, and after getting to know them on Twitter and their interviews and the film that you and I watched and talked about and everything else, I'm a bigger fan and more optimistic now than I was on Saturday.
Yeah.
But damn it, man. It seems like, honestly, all 3 guys could have been had in the 4th.
100%. Now, let's go one at a time, right?
Sure.
They're all three. There's only one that makes my eyes burst out of my head with anger. Right?
Let's pick 99, right?
99.
Yeah.
But, all right, so the first pick, 75, is Osa Odigizua,
right,
out of UCLA. Now, you talked earlier about the Senior Bowl being big.
right.
Osa Odigizua dominated at the Senior Bowl, right?
Yes.
So there's a couple of things we can take away from just the fact that they drafted this guy. One, and then later on, Dan Quinn talked about it in his first interview. This was the first time, once they drafted him, I went, okay, they are definitely going to be more multiple, more hybrid,
right,
than just a straight 4-3. Because what he is a defensive tackle / defensive end, but he can play basically every spot on the defensive line. He can play 1 technique, 3 technique, 5, 7. So you're going to see him in the base package. He's going to be the 5 technique, which is like a 3-4 defensive end, the big stout dude like Chris Canny back in the day, and when Parcells was running it. He's 280 pounds. He's a 3-time state champion wrestler.
Yes, I like that. And he's got 35-inch arms as well, which everyone we drafted did, by the way.
Yeah, we have the longest arm draft class by far. But yeah, he's got huge arms, and you can watch him go against guys that are bigger than him by 50 pounds, and they can't move him. And it's because he's got that wrestling background. He understands leverage in a way that other people just don't. And he can get low and get into him, and just can't move him.
And his twitch, right? That's a thing. Like his hips and it's good, right?
Yeah.
So they announced that. I admittedly did not know who this guy was.
Sure.
And I was thinking about it, and I started looking at rankings and such, and I'm like, okay. Then it hit me. I know I'm flipping between NFL Network and ESPN when I'm watching this, and it hit me about how many players were starting to go off the Senior Bowl in the 3rd round. And I'm like, okay. I was like, this seems like kind of a reach, but maybe, hey, all the Senior Bowl guys who are 4th rounders, or maybe because of familiarity, this is what's going to happen this round. Is that we're about to just get Senior Bowl guys. And okay, fine. So we got Osa, and I'm pumping myself up for it a little bit. I'm like, okay, man, I like the wrestling background. I like the handwork. Okay, this is gonna be cool. I got it. Next pick. Another one is kind of just right over my head, dude.
Sure.
And it's Chauncey.
Yeah, Chauncey Golston.
280 pounds. Kind of small?
No. He's a defensive end. So he's a big pass rusher, right? But he's not he is a left defensive end in a 4-3, right? He's a big run stopping defensive end. He's never going to be a 6, 8, 10, 12 sack guy from the defensive end spot. He's going to come in on 1st and 2nd down and play the run really, really well. And if it happens to be a pass on 1st or 2nd down, he's going to push the pocket with power. He's not that Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Ware, super fast, bendy guy who can bend around the corner. That's not him. He's going to push an offensive tackle right back into the quarterback, and that's how he's going to be helpful.
Wrestling background as well.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing that's important to note with him and Osa is they're known to be like incredible team guys, great locker room guys, great no off-field stuff whatsoever, like coaches' darlings, right? If the locker room was a classroom, they'd be teachers' pets. Okay. They are those guys. And I think the first 2 picks directly correlate to part of why we took these 2 that we're talking about here in the 4th, because we took some swings with Parsons and with Joseph as far as the off-field and character concerns. And these guys are safe bets. They're not going to give you any issues, and they're also ready to play right now. There's not a ton of development time. Their ceiling isn't going to be sky high, but their floor is really high.
I like it. And one thing that I kind of noticed, it's funny because me, I like wrestling, and we talk about these guys being wrestlers and 35-inch arms. I can't think, but the largest arms in the world, brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's I
Yeah.
can't help but it just happens every time. It makes me laugh.
Absolutely.
So, so that was the Eagles pick right there, Chauncey.
Yes.
That was the pick we got from the Eagles. So if you are like me and you want to compare, that's one thing you can kind of look at is, okay, let's see how Surtain does, right? Because in a bubble, I still, and I know I'm getting off topic here, I cannot fathom, if I was a Denver fan and I don't end up with Aaron Rodgers somehow through all this, I would lose my fucking shit over my front office passing over Fields because I have Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Like, and it's funny because my comparison to a front office that would not do that would be like the Bears, was what I said. Like, if the Bears passed over him with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, their fan base would go insane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And wow, that happened. So hopefully they know something that looks like it's not going to happen because wow.
I tell you, man, I'm high on Justin Fields. He was probably my favorite quarterback in this draft class.
Sure.
Or at least right there with Trevor Lawrence. I think in 2 to 3 years, the folks in Denver, I mean, they're going to lose their fucking minds because I really do. I think Justin Fields is going to be borderline MVP in 2 to 3 years. I think he's going to be terrific.
So back pick 99. Let's talk about more shit shows, shall we?
Yes.
I'm sure he has a great interview. I like 6'4". The first thing I thought of when I saw 6'4" was Richard Sherman, and apparently that's what this dude views himself as. If there's one thing our draft class does have, it's confidence. Every single one of them is confident as fuck, and it's awesome. So tell us about the name and everything about ours. All right, pick 99, our last pick in the third round.
His name is Nahshon Wright. He's a 6'4" cornerback out of Oregon State. So, as far as the player, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really know anything about him until
neither did anyone else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was watching the draft show on DallasCowboys.com, and that they had Dane Brugler and Brian Broaddus and a handful of other people, and the look on people's face when that was the name. The only person in that room, and they are full-time draft coverage people basically,
right? And
the only person in that room who even knew who he was Dane Brugler. So that tells you how far down he was ranked by everybody else.
Yeah.
The one thing we do know at this point, it's come out that the scouts for the Cowboys and a number of other people in the war room did not want to draft Nahshon Wright. They wanted to draft Jabril Cox or Baron Browning. Those were the two that they were looking at drafting. And they kind of instead of going off the board and picking best available player, they let Dan Quinn make the pick. And I guess this guy was a Dan Quinn darling. For whatever reason, Dan Quinn liked it. I mean, I say whatever reason. The reason is 6'4".
The Richard Sherman, exactly 100%. Richard Sherman was the 5th round pick. This guy honestly should have been a 5th round pick. Now, some draft experts now have went back after watching him and they said, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
This guy went about where he should.
Yeah.
Good, but
the problem I have with it, even if you take the two linebackers off the table, which we'll get into more here in just a minute.
Right.
But even if you take I look not so much at the linebackers that they were thinking about taking, but I look at the other cornerbacks that were available right there.
Right.
Like one of my favorite cornerbacks in the entire draft that I had pegged as a mid-second round player is Ifeatu Melifonwu.
Right.
Who went 2 picks later, right? Now, there's also the pick right after him was the safety cornerback hybrid dude out of Washington, who my brain isn't working, but I can't remember his name. It'll come to me in a minute. But that was who I was hoping they were going to pick because that guy could play free safety.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, and they could have done that and probably still got this guy in the 6th,
Right.
you know, but
or they had 2 picks in the 4th, man, or just use one of those. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. But it's too late at this point to worry about all that because we've got him. He's on the team.
how is it going to work?
Exactly.
How is it going to work? And let's root for the kid because he's on our team now, and he gives a great interview. He sounds awesome.
He's very confident, like you said, very confident.
The Cowboys do this, man. They get in their heads and they're in their own little bubble, and they don't think. It's like, okay, you know what? It is a comp pick, so Dan, you can have this one.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like, I get it. That's awesome that you're giving a guy you just brought in that much. You know, you're relying on him to rebuild everything, and you have that much trust. That's cool for the leadership and everything else. It really, really is. But at the same time, the ebb and flow of what you just created and did.
That's not how smart teams operate, Zach. That's
right, exactly.
You look at the teams that can, like, in my opinion, the best drafting team in all of the NFL consistently always is the Ravens, right? They're one of those teams that they don't trade up. Sometimes they'll trade back, but they almost never trade up.
And for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and they always end up with good players. They let the draft come to them,
right? And
they always end up with good players. And you can look at them in the 5th round of every draft for the last 15 years, and I bet you 1 out of 4 has a player that's, you know, done something. They may not be an all-pro, but they don't waste picks ever, not ever at all. Just because it was a comp pick or something you got in a trade doesn't mean it's something you can light on fire.
Not a different mentality, right? There's not a different mentality for this is a, hey, if it doesn't work out, it was bonus pick anyway, or hey, we just got this pick from the Eagles, so whatever.
And they also don't let their coaches step in and make the picks, right? I appreciate.
What if Quinn gets fired, dude?
Yeah.
Or what if he has a great year and he gets hired as a coach?
Yeah, which is, by the way, totally, absolutely possible. The reason he took this job is because it is a job with one of the biggest spotlights on it in the entire country, the entire league.
You can get hired again with a quickness.
Yeah, that's what he's hoping to do. So then if that happens and you bring somebody else in who runs a different system, you know, there's a lot of teams out there that have no interest in 6'4" corners because they're not agile. They can't turn and run with these little tiny receivers. It's not like it was 10 years ago where everybody was trying to get wide receivers who were 6'4" and had now everybody's looking for Tyreek Hill and Diggs and the little tiny guys that are super agile and quick and can route you up.
Speaking of
what's that?
I'm going to cut you off real quick.
Yeah,
I have something on my mind. So one thing that kind of pisses me off, and maybe it's just a Dallas thing because we were the 90s Cowboys and boy, they like to party, right?
Yes, indeed.
Why, when the Chiefs draft Tyreek Hill, who had notable off the field issues,
a ton of them.
Why is it smart? It's a gamble. That's what a good team does. But when the Cowboys do it, well, that's Jerry and his fuck ups. Like what, why is that the connotation? Is that a media thing? Is that just because we're in Dallas and we hear what the Dallas people have to say? And is that what's going on? Or
it's a combination of all of those things. It's part of it is like you said, the 90s Cowboys reputation, not just the 90s Cowboys, by the way, the 70s Cowboys, the 80s Cowboys. You had Hollywood Henderson doing rails in the locker room.
Hell yeah.
Whatever else, you know, all that kind of stuff was going on. But it's also, people look at Jerry as like a
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, like a cross between Vince McMahon and Yosemite Sam. You know? It's just just kind of flying by the seat of his pants and just all that kind of stuff. So every time and to be fair, Jerry is also, we do it more often than a lot of teams.
No, that's why I got angry with it. I'm like, what, man? I'm like,
I don't mind. I'm glad that we got some guys like that because, we had, there was, during the Jason Garrett era,
that's all we did was high character, and high character got you 8-8 every year.
All the time. And look, we would do high character guys, but then they would screw it up and do something stupid like bring in Greg Hardy, right? So you've got a locker room full of either high character guys or young, impressionable guys, and then you bring in
Greg Hardy just freaking UFC fighting people in the bathroom.
Exactly. And so the fucking season goes off the rails. At least I feel like in this situation, as long as they've done their homework and have a handle on the character guys, there's only one character guy in this draft that I have an issue with, and we'll get.
Yeah, we're about to get to him in round 4, I believe.
Yeah, and I have I have a severe issue with him, but we'll get to that because we still got 2 picks or one pick to get to before him. So
yeah, so so the 3rd round's over. I'm scratching my head. I'm like, I just literally, because I was recording both feeds because I wanted to hear what people said. And I heard Mel Kiper say that this is too rich for his blood. And then I heard the people on NFL Network not even know what the fuck to say besides we need defensive help, so it makes sense. And I'm
one
like,
thing real quick.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off, but I have to say
you're fine.
ESPN needs to get their money back from Mel Kiper for the last 10 fucking years. He's so bad at this now. He's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. You're right. The NFL Network is such a better, the picture quality is better on ESPN. It really is.
Oh, it is. I mean, I had ESPN on. I just had it muted. I was listening on DallasCowboys.com.
Which pumps me up, by the way. Next season, not the one coming up, but next season in 2022, all Thursday night games are going to be on Amazon Prime and 4K streaming, and that's going to look press fucking steam.
Yes.
It's going to be very pretty. It's going to be very fun.
It's going to be beautiful.
So just when I thought the Dallas Cowboys couldn't get any dumber, the 4th round comes around and they totally redeem themselves, at least with the value that they get with these 2 picks. We talk about character issue, which we're going to get to in a second. And I think you stand where I do on that. But I think both picks are one, like, I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. Why is he still there? One, I'm like, oh, that's why he's still there. But if not, he would have been like a 2nd rounder. So first off, we mentioned him. We've been talking about linebackers this whole podcast. We get Jabril Cox from LSU, the linebacker. Baller in coverage, by the way.
My 4th favorite linebacker in the entire draft.
Like, why is he available this late?
It's 2 things. One, well, no, actually, it's not even 2. It's one thing. He is, as you said, a great coverage linebacker. He is not good at playing the run, right? And at the end of the day, even though what I said earlier is 100% true about linebackers needing to be able to affect the pass game and a linebacker's responsibility primarily still, their first responsibility is the run.
Well, right? Just for our Cowboy fans, think about Jalen Smith versus Todd Gurley, Jalen Smith's rookie year, when he still had dead leg a little bit, and Todd Gurley had like 200 yards versus us. Yeah, exactly. That's why they need to be able to stop the run, because then that happens.
And so because he is not great at the run, people were worried that he may never be good at the run. Where I personally believe that you can teach that playing in pass coverage is something that's much harder to learn, because so much of it is about instinct and feel. Linebackers aren't generally playing man-to-man. They're dropping into zones.
Right.
And so it's about floating around in the zone, kind of, you're having to watch the quarterback, but you have to be able to kind of see out of your peripheral vision where a receiver is coming. You have to be able to kind of feel what's going on and identify route concepts and all that stuff. Playing the run it's much simpler. You're viewing keys. If you're keying off the left guard, if the left guard starts pulling this way, that you are responsible for B gap, or so on and so forth, right? It's just about repetition. And I think that, and this happens a lot at the college level, I think his coaches basically said, look, you don't play the run all that well, but you are a beast in coverage. We're going to basically use you like an overhang, almost like a safety. And that's what they did.
So he'll be in nickel almost all the time.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Right now, he's going to be a special teamer, and you're going to see him on obvious passing downs in nickel packages. I think maybe a dime package. He may be the dime package linebacker. They may even try to use him a little bit as like a safety hybrid kind of thing.
Okay.
But like I said earlier, I think within the next 12 to 24 months, he and Micah are your two primary starting linebackers because they complement each other perfectly. One of them is a beast against the run and can rush the passer, and the other one isn't great against the run. He can blitz fairly well, but what he does great is they interlocked perfectly as a linebacking duo. So I personally think that'll probably
Blades of Glory, Fire and Ice.
Exactly.
You know, exactly. Will Ferrell and Home Dude Napoleon Dynamite. It just works. Just the twin dongs. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's safe to say, that with this pick happening, I immediately started to feel way better. And then we're paying attention to everything. We're learning this is what they wanted to do with pick 99. So it's like, okay, let's just fucking shift things in our head a little bit.
Exactly. If you just switch them,
Yeah,
if you switch them, you feel way better about it. But yeah, go ahead.
Missy Elliott said back in the day, you flip it and reverse it, and you're flipper, nerper, serpent, nerp, something. So the next pick in the 4th round. Now, we went offense. This is the first offensive pick of the draft. They went 8 on defense, 3 on offense during the actual draft for the 11 players we got. The talent for this fella, Josh Ball, is the first thing I heard is if this guy's a 2nd rounder, if he's not a terrible human being. And when I say terrible human being, 11 counts of date violence at FSU, was asked to leave the school, went to Marshall. And quite frankly, anything I heard, because I'm like, okay, man, people change, benefit of the doubt. We don't know what happened. Convicted, interviews suck, doesn't seem remorseful, doesn't seem like he even wants to address the issue.
Let me clarify. He wasn't convicted.
Convicted. Thank you.
He did not have any criminal charges pressed against him, right? His girlfriend at the time did get a restraining order. But here's how maybe not know, but here's how you can pretty much be sure that at least some of what she was saying is valid. It's really, if you're a good player, if you're somebody who would go in the top 100 picks in the NFL draft, it's really, really fucking difficult for a school like Florida State to ask you to leave. They don't do that, right? They don't. They put up with a lot of really bad, problem type players because they can play. And if they ask you to leave, you've done something pretty rough.
And you know what? And before we ostracize the man, I'm 39, and man, was I a fuck up in my teens and 20s. And it's quite frankly not a good human being. And I wouldn't expect that my wife would even want to be remotely with me at all if she knew the man that I was back then. So I'm not saying that people can't change or grow or get better. His vibe, though, from what I heard, is not great. And every interview I heard from everyone, I was just like, okay, like it's funny because, even like when I was pissed off in the 3rd round at 3 picks, I heard their Dallas Cowboys interviews immediately. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. Okay, let's go to war together, man. I'm going to watch you on my couch and I'm going to scream at that TV. I'm ready to see what you're about. I'm ready for the preseason to see what's going on. With this guy, I was just like, yeah.
The other guys were easy guys to root for. Even if you don't like the pick, right? Like I told you when you and I were texting on pick 99.
No shot.
Yes. I hate the pick. I like the player and I like the person.
Right.
It's the exact opposite with Ball. I like the pick.
Sure.
The talent, the value, all of that is great. And again, like you said, I am not going to play judge, jury, or executioner. I was not there. I have no idea what actually happened. And in these situations, There's all sorts of variables that we have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And like you said, everybody's stupid when they're 19 or 20 years old. Everybody, to a man, to a woman, everyone in the world is stupid when they're 19, and everybody makes mistakes. My issue with him is there is a handful of ways that you can address this when you're asked about it and not come across like a total douchebag. Right?
Failed miserably.
And he failed. Yeah, he didn't even come close, man. All he had to say, the simplest one is, everybody makes mistakes. I'm certainly not perfect. I don't really want to talk about it because it is in the past, and I am just trying to move on. I've made changes in my life, and I'm looking forward to working out and getting in with the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm looking to the future. Right? He kind of said that, but in a much more hostile and evasive kind of way.
We've moved on. We're not focused on that anymore. Just very. And it's kind of like a fuck you. Why are you even asking me about this type thing? And that's wrong. Like people can ask. That's kind of what their job is to do.
Yeah, I mean, don't look. You're a guy who probably should have been a top 50 pick. And now you got picked in the mid to late fourth round of the NFL draft, and now you're calling into the team's radio station, and you're surprised why they're asking about it, and you're not prepared to answer that question, and you're kind of a prick about it.
Bad look, man.
And it was not a good look. He was very not contrite. I only because I am a diehard Cowboys fan, I'm rooting for him to be great, but I am at this point rooting for him to be good enough for us to be able to trade him next offseason and get something for him so that he can go be somebody else's douchebag.
So fourth round is done. All right. So one of the reasons why in the third round, I think I was starting to lose my shit a little bit was because I thought that, hey man, this team's going to have Dak back. And that alone is such a huge, huge change of the guard in the NFC East alone and winning the division, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. And on top of that, we have a draft where we're going to have 5 picks in the top 99. We're going to be able to get 5 of the top 100 players in the draft. And they started to lose me with what they did in the third round. Well, like I said, they pulled me back in the 5th. I think I can confidently say on paper, they got 4 for sure of the top 100 players drafted.
Yeah, so they just didn't take them all in the top 100.
They did not. No, sure as hell did not.
No.
But I feel confident at this point that is what happened after these 2 picks. And I'm like, okay, we're kind of moving back in the right direction. I don't know what the hell is going on in the third, man. Sometimes they just get bored and feel like they just need to shake it up, I guess, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
In the 5th round, we had 2 picks. All right. First pick is the wide receiver, Simi. How do you pronounce his last name?
I believe it's Foku.
Fokus. Yeah, I almost said fuck you.
Fehoko. Sorry. Simi Fehoko.
So there we go. I don't know a whole lot about this player. I know, once again, confidence to the moon.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. He's got length. Pretty good route runner, correct?
He's a decent, right? He's not a great route runner. What he is he's fast.
Okay. Thank you.
So he's missing the route running part of the intricacies of, like, getting off of a jam at the line of scrimmage and really being able to set somebody up with his routes and stuff like that. He's got good hands. He's fast. He's big, right? So right off the bat, primarily he's going to be a special teams guy.
Sure. Or practice squad or not on the team.
Yeah. I think he's going to make the team.
Cool. I'm up for it.
Just for special teams value alone, right? Because he is big and fast. He's going to be a gunner on the punt team and that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the field goal unit trying to block a field goal, try to block a punt, that kind of stuff.
Okay. I can dig it.
But also I'm not predicting this, but it wouldn't surprise me if in 2 or 3 years he's our number 3 wide receiver or something like that.
Okay.
He's got significant talent. Aside from his lack of route running and that kind of stuff, the other downside is he's an older player. I think he's 26.
You know what that reminds me of? The way you described him, it reminds me of Sam Hurd, who Cowboy fans may remember. He went from being the 6th receiver to our 3rd to leaving and then getting into a whole bunch of legal problems. But he was having a nice career for himself for starting off literally just as I think a 5th round pick, maybe even as well. If I'm not mistaken, Patrick Craig's another one as well like that with the Cowboys. So, okay.
Yeah, no, I could very easily see this, him turning into a solid player. The catch is going to be, can he do it before his athletic gifts start fading because of his age? Because, the reason he's older is he went on, he's a missionary. He went and went on a mission for 2 years to South America, I believe.
Yeah, he's a great human being. He's everything the 4th round pick was not. Oh, he is like the polar Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Up next, I love this pick. This guy, holy shit balls, right?
Yes.
This is our guy. We like the Fat Boys, dude. And this guy, Bohanna, he's like 8,000 pounds.
Yeah.
One tech. He's meant to do one thing, and that's stop the run. It's put him in on 3rd down and short and let him destroy the world, right?
Absolutely. He is a trash can full of dirt and bricks. You are not moving him, right? Like here's an example, and a lot of people are going to hear this and think it's a bad thing, where I think it's amazing. He played for 3 years at Kentucky. In those 3 years, the entire 3 years, and I don't know the exact number, but it was something like 40 tackles total the entire time he was there. And a lot of people hear that and go, that's not very good. No, because you gotta understand what it was that he was asked to do there and what he's going to be asked to do here. His job is to park his fat head directly over the center and make one of the guards and the center double team him, so that now you got linebackers running free, or you've got DeMarcus Lawrence can't be double teamed at that point.
Right.
Or Randy Gregory can't be double teamed.
It's an exciting pick, dude.
I love it.
Exciting pick. Also, this guy, there aren't very many 5th round picks you can say you almost guarantee they'll make the team.
Oh, no.
This fucking guy right here, if he's healthy, will make the team.
I will bet you anything you want that he makes the team.
34.5-inch arms as well. Also a quick twitch. And this guy is built like the Mike McCarthy pick of BJ Raji.
Absolutely.
Green Bay. Yeah. This dude, he only going to be out on 3rd downs, but man.
No. First down.
First down?
Yeah, he's going to be our base package. No
3rd and short. So you think.
Yeah. The only 3rd downs you're going to see him on is 3rd and short.
3rd and short.
Goal line, that kind of stuff. But you'll see him on 1st down, obvious run situations, right? Okay. You're going to see him about 25% of the time, but when he's in there, it's a run play, and whoever it is that's in front of him, they're not moving. That's it. His feet are anchored to the ground.
He is a tank. He is a tank.
Yeah, he's huge.
All right, so 2 picks left. We got another 6'4" cornerback. Tell us about this guy, the 6th round.
So they've already said he played corner in college, but they've already said that they're gonna try him at safety.
Right.
Number 1, his name is Israel Mukuamu.
Another confident SOB, by the way. I dig it. I most have star, but man, well spoken. Just
yeah. And I think again. This if I had to pick one guy, he's maybe the least likely to make the team. But just like the other corner that we drafted, the Nahshon Wright, it's once you get to this point in the draft, you're not your best player available doesn't even really count.
This is when you look for traits and
Traits.
characteristics and what you need to fit your scheme that you're rolling for bodies for camp, for bodies for everything, right?
100%. And you're looking for traits that you can develop, that kind of thing. Right. He is 6'4". He's got 30, almost 34 and a quarter inch arms.
Right. All of them are 34 and a half, 34 and a quarter, 35. It's nuts.
The two tallest cornerbacks in the entire draft, and we drafted both of them. So that tells you what Dan Quinn is looking for. He wants tall, long space eaters. He wants them, if we're going to play drop zone, he wants you to be able to reach out and affect the larger areas of space. Right. That's really all you need to know about him, is he's big and pretty fast.
And not the Mr. Irrelevant, but our Mr. Irrelevant of the draft. In the 7th round, the Cowboys went back to this was the 3rd and final offensive lineman, or offensive player, excuse me. Also plays in the offensive line, Matt Farniok.
Yep.
He's a body, man.
He's a camp body. He's a camp body. The whole idea is to create a little bit of competition. That's all that is. If he this is the guy I would be, not only do I not think he'll make the roster, I would be surprised if he does, just because we've got a fair amount of depth on the interior of the offensive line between Biotish and the two Connors and Zach, of course. There's a fair amount of depth on the interior offensive line. You're only going to carry so many offensive linemen. I think they're going to move Brandon Knight to guard. So he's a camp body, and maybe he ends up on the practice squad. All indications are he's a really good dude. So there you go.
Okay. So we think 9. We're thinking 9 of these 11 are going to make it.
Yeah. I would bet 8 or 9. 8 or 9, which is solid for this number of draft picks. If you're getting, actually, I would say 9. I think 9 make the roster, and that's great. Because Steven, in the interviews after the draft, he's said it multiple times. We're in a spot now as a team where, we're paying Dak a lot of money. We're paying 3 guys on our offensive line a lot of money. We're paying
Zeke and Cooper.
Yeah, Zeke, Cooper, Tank, Jalen. We've got some guys that we're paying a good amount of money. And so what we need right now, more than anything, is young, cheap talent who can come in and take a veteran's job. They would love nothing more than to be able to cut 2 or 3 expensive veterans because these guys made the roster. And I think it's going to happen.
Excellent. So the draft is done. This is the draft in a nutshell. Overall, very pleased. Living the 3rd round was not so pleasant. So I'm glad you got to live it through us on the podcast, because it certainly wasn't as bad listening to it. And then you think about, because we're talking about it now with having the interviews, knowing the players a little bit better, knowing what ended up happening in the 4th round, that everything kind of came into fruition, because the 2 4th round picks very well could have went in the 3rd and push everybody back to, and there's no tomfuckery going around where anybody's upset with anything. So that's kind of where we stand there. Expert wise, it's kind of looking at it today. Most experts have us anywhere from a B to a C grade on their charts, which is not, it is what it is.
It means fuck all right now. Let's just be honest. You can't judge a draft for, some people say 3 years. I don't buy that, especially the way the NFL is now, where your rookies, especially the higher ones, are expected to play pretty early. Sure. But I say you at least can't judge it until camp. Let's get to training camp before you really judge it. Right now, the only thing you can judge is, did the Cowboys execute their plan and process well? And I would say for the most part, it was pretty good. There were some spots where it could have been better.
Right.
As we've talked about at this point quite a bit, but it was fairly solid. Like I said, I would give it probably a B-.
Okay.
On process and everything else.
Excellent. Well, let's close this chapter on the Cowboys. You want to talk Mavs for a few minutes before we close?
Absolutely.
All right. So the Dallas Mavericks are in 5th place. They got lucky because the Lakers lost, and they look like they're going to lose again tonight to Denver as well. They're tied with Portland, but because Portland and Lakers are tied with Dallas, it makes Portland 7th and us 5th, even though the records are the same. The good, Luka is one of 4 players in NBA history to now have a 30-point and 20 assist triple-double. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. The bad is his next technical foul. He's suspended for a game.
Yep.
I want to correct something that I misspoke on in a previous podcast, by the way, for everyone still sticking with us right now. The technical fouls reset when the playoffs start.
I didn't know that either. Good.
They do. You start over at 0 and the magic number's 8. 8 technical fouls in the playoffs and you get suspended. That's what happened to Draymond Green that year versus the Cavs. They ended up losing. So there is hope. We're not going to be losing him on a playoff game. Now he swears up and down, Luka's swearing that he's not going to get. It'll probably happen next game. It'll probably happen tomorrow.
Here's the thing. Part of it, I definitely he's got his share of blame in the situation. But those last night, that
was stupid. Yeah,
shit. I mean,
4 of the texts have come from that ref.
Yeah, yeah. That dude and a couple of other refs, let's just be honest, because of his whining, it is his fault that it's at this point.
He didn't get the benefit of the doubt at this point.
No. And at this rate, he's never going to if he doesn't dial it back. So he's going to have to learn to shut the fuck up. Let's see if he can.
I'm almost more ready to watch him tomorrow than just to see how he reacts to everything, knowing that. Yeah. Because they have 8 games left. And if they win 6 of these, they're probably going to be the 5th seed. And it's Miami and the Nets are the 2 hardest ones.
Yeah. And the question is, when is the Nets game?
Thursday, I think.
Okay. No, never mind. For some reason, I had it in my head that it was a little bit later because I was thinking maybe the Nets would be resting people, but by then.
Dude, they rest people so fucking randomly in New Jersey. I don't even know. We play Miami tomorrow, the Nets Thursday, Cavs Friday, Cavs Sunday. So, yeah. So, when did the Kings, I just want to talk about this real quick because I'm trying to process it in my head.
Yeah. So, it doesn't make sense.
I've seen teams have other teams' numbers before, right? We saw the We Believe Warriors. We actually talked about those fuckers on our podcast last episode, right? Not only did they beat us during the regular season, bad, we matched up with them as a number 1 seed, winning 67 games back in 2007, and they beat our ass, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when did the Sacramento King become? They're up. Fans hate this team now. They're like the 06 Heat, the 07 We Believers, and let's just say Spurs, period. They've become that kind of thorn in our side because the Spurs in the late 2000s owned our soul as well, by the way.
Yeah.
That older Dirk era of Mavs basketball. And what is that about?
I have there's nothing about it makes sense. Nothing. At least about the game last night, because I'll say this: Harrison Barnes, ever since what happened,
sure,
leaving here, he's kind of become a Mav killer a little bit. So when he plays, the last time, not this game last night, but the last time, he had a great game. And that's part of what got us there.
He didn't play. Fox didn't play, and Halliburton got injured.
I know.
Is it just Buddy Hield auditioning? Is he just please trade for me? Please come get me?
I also think Bagley usually tries to go pretty hard because a lot of people compare him to Luka because of
he was taking Luka.
Well, yeah, exactly. No. And so if you look at his numbers, usually some of his better games are against the Mavericks, even though it's still not great. He's not that great of a player, but that's that's it. Nothing about, and I also think has a lot to do with the Mavericks. They're still at that point where they play down to teams.
They're young, man. That's when your leader's 22.
Yep, exactly. And it's like we said, we've talked about this in a podcast probably once or twice. I know once. He's not at that point where he's had his soul crushed in the playoffs. He just had the first time to lose in the playoffs was last year.
And it was a bubble. It was a totally different
weird,
scenario.
totally weird. And frankly, the fact that they were able to push the Clippers the way that they were, a lot of people felt good about that, right? Sure. And so, which I mean, I did too, but I could see him walking out of that series not feeling like his soul was snatched from his body and just crumbled like dust. Where that's what it's supposed to feel like when you lose a playoff series. And he hasn't got there yet. And
they were just so happy to be playing. You know, the season happened, it seemed, you know. And there's like a giant party to some of these young guys. It's like, I could just stay in a dorm with my dudes at Disney World. Like it was kind of some of the older fellas that you could tell, like it jacked them up.
Yeah.
But some of the younger guys were like, this is okay, cool. This is fine. It's badass.
Yeah, it's, you know, and that kind of shit is what leads to you playing down to shitty teams like Sacramento and losing to Houston and losing to these just garbage teams that we've lost to over the last 20 games or so that just, they have no business of even being in the game, and we just let them hang around.
This is how the week's going to go. They're going to beat Miami and the Nets and then get swept by the Cavs.
I mean, we're joking, but it's certainly possible.
So Porzingis is doubtful tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
No.
We'll see how this goes. 8 games left. Man, we say what we want about Porzingis. This team, in my opinion, is not making a playoff run without Porzingis at this point with the way they're constructed.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, look, again, it's kind of like what we were talking about with the Cowboys draft earlier. We can sit here and him and haw and hammering all day about how we want somebody better or want more out of Porzingis, but it is what it is for right now. And if they can't get a healthy Porzingis, no matter who we match up with in the first round, it's going to be a short series if he's not able to play some serious minutes and you know, play well.
All right, gut. They're coming off a loss, fighting for their playoff seeding life right now versus Miami. Are they getting a W?
Yeah. The last time we lost to Sacramento, they came back and won the next game. That usually these kinds of losses, it's a short-term reality check, and it's embarrassing for Luka a little bit. And usually we get a pretty spectacular game out of him. So yeah, I think we win.
The Nets do not have a back-to-back. They're playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So for what we should expect, the Nets will be full force on Thursday whenever we play them. So Brian and I shall break down these games all next week when we do our episode on Monday night. We talk about where we stand. We'll have 4 more games under our belt by then and 4 left to go. So in closing, the Texas Rangers won 3 of 4 versus the Red Sox, who the number one.
Right?
Just when you try to write them off, they become team fun baseball again. It's like they lose 4 in a row. You're like, okay, it's time to not pay attention. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, Willie Calhoun's hit 9 games in a row. They just beat the Red Sox 3 of 4. And then now they're getting their ass beat by the Twins.
Of course.
It's dirty. It's dirty, man. It's a journey.
They are so predictably unpredictable. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really. Like, you have no idea. And as long as you're not expecting them to go on some crazy, awesome postseason run, it's not bad to watch. It's decent baseball.
Team fun baseball right now. They don't really get their ass beat. They're kind of there, man. So whatever. Yeah. They're still there, man. Gotta appreciate it.
Again, it's May. We're still talking about baseball, and it's May, and I didn't expect that to be true. So whatever. No. I'll take it.
I'm with it, man. I'm with it 100%. Well, you got anything else you want to close with?
I watched Mortal Kombat. You're absolutely right. I'm not into it. Other than that, that's all I got, bro.
My wife's tried watching it twice, and I don't think she's made it past the same first 12 minutes either time.
It's rough, man. It's rough.
It's even more rough when you try to watch it a second time, because I'm in the room when she tries to watch it, and I'm like, we've been watching New Girl. We've like restarted that series. That's a funny show, man.
Is it?
My gosh, did you ever watch New Girl before?
No, I'm aware of it, but I've never watched it.
It is hilarious. I think you would enjoy it very
Okay.
much.
I may
It's
have to
just
check it out.
so very goofy. It's on Netflix every season. And last night I try to do this thing. So it's apparently very good for you to, before you go to bed, watch either animation or watch a comedy, something funny. Like if you watch, for instance, Narcos and go to bed, that's probably bad for your sleep pattern, right?
Yeah.
The way you think. If you watch like Futurama or The Simpsons or South Park or New Girl or Office, or you name the program, it makes you're laughing, you're not looking at your phone, your mind might be thinking better, and then you might start off with a better day. So I've been trying to do this, my wife and I both, where we try to watch a comedy show, because I've been watching Warrior as well. Have you heard of that show?
Sure. Yeah.
That show is awesome. I'm almost
I
done
haven't
with
watched it, but I have heard of it.
it. Ooh, season, it got greenlit for season 3. For our listeners out there, it's on HBO Max. It's actually based off some writings of Bruce Lee, and it is kung fu to the max. It is badass. One of the coolest things about that show, before I get too carried away, is there's 3 kinds of dialect happening at all time. So the Chinese people in it are immigrants, right? They don't speak English. But for us, they speak English, but yet they all speak perfect English. But when they are speaking around an American, all of a sudden they're either speaking Chinese, it changes to Chinese all of a sudden, or if they're trying to speak actual English, they're talking with a heavy Chinese accent. But then when they talk to each other, it's perfect English like you or me. And that happens on every episode, like what's going on. It's really cool how they do it, by the way. It's one of the more original, like it's some of those original writing I've ever seen.
Huh. Okay.
It's very intriguing.
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out.
There's a whorehouse in it, and the madam of the whorehouse, when she's talking to like the cops or whatever, she's got the heavy, thick Asian accent. But then whenever she's talking to the other actors, she sounds as American as can be. It's very, very cool how they do that. And it's got just got some kick-ass kung fu, dude. My gosh, it is. It's you will be hooked, trust me.
All right, I'll check it out.
It's so damn good. New Girl as well. Watch both of those. That's everybody's assignment if you're a listener. Watch the New Girl and watch that. There's nothing else really new yet right now to watch. Watch those things and enjoy.
Indeed.
So anything else? All right.
That's it for me.
All right. Very good. We appreciate all you guys from listening. This is our draft special. And, we love doing this every week. It's a way to kind of sit back and talk and reflect on sports, where we're not talking to our wives about it and boring them out of their minds. So thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, like, review, share, tell people about us, whatever you want to do, because that's why we do this thing.
I do have one last thing. It just popped into my head, but she's here and she can hear me say it. I do want to give a shout out to my lovely wife, Adrian, who's been editing the videos for us and kind of helping out, producing a little bit for us. So I did want to say thank you very much, Adrian Knox.
Yes, thank you so much. I definitely owe you dinner sometime, or cookie you a burger or something. Tell bad jokes that didn't need to happen. So this is us signing off. We appreciate you guys listening. This is the Goal Line Fade, and we are out.